name is Anna Escobar, and I have the honor of being the 2021 chair of the Maddox Fund. I want to thank the nonprofit community for your flexibility, resilience, and commitment during a year of uncertainty. Tornadoes, floods, and COVID-19 have made us all more grateful, agile, and creative. Thank you for all you have done and what you are doing to make Nashville a better place. The Maddox board has been fully engaged over the last 4 years as we learn and study systemic racism and how communities of mostly Black, Latino, Asian, Indigenous, and Middle Eastern people have been treated. We are more aware now of how our LGBT and gender-expansive neighbors have been left behind. We at Maddox are currently in a self-assessment and equity audit to question and to study our own policies and practices in order to build a more liberating presence in Middle Tennessee. The Maddox Fund is a learning organization, and we anticipate that our learning will continue. As we say on the equity leadership team, where one equity process ends, the next begins. And now, I'd like to introduce you to our 2021 chair of the Maddox Grant Committee, Melissa Gordon.
Hello, my name is Melissa Gordon, and I am the grant chair of the Maddox Fund. As you already read, Maddox Fund has created an equity imperative. Part of that imperative is a commitment to create a more and just equitable community through our grant-making practices. We understand that undergirding that commitment is the conviction that all human beings are interconnected, not just with one another, but with all of nature, a belief that makes our desire to foster connection and a sense of belonging even more urgent. Thinking about what's happened nationally and locally, now more than ever is a time to lean in and bridge across difference and to foster understanding. All communities need an opportunity to create their self-determined goals, and we will look forward to this trust-based philanthropy journey with you. One of the things that Maddox recognizes is that some of our partners might be in a different place in terms of their understanding of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. Because of that, we've also partnered with different organizations to ensure that our partners have support. One of those organizations is Crossroad Anti-Racism Workshops. We had a number of workshop opportunities for our partners to attend at the Center for Nonprofit Management. Another one is Arvana. They provide training for wildlife conservation groups. We also participated in a CEO Equity Circle with the Healing Trust. If you feel like you or someone in your organization would like to know more about resources, please visit our website at maddoxfund.org/equity. As a piece of our equity imperative, Maddox is committed to justice and equity. When we think about what equity means, it's providing the resources and support that marginalized individuals and organizations need to thrive, therefore ensuring we can no longer predict advantages or disadvantages based on difference. So we have a value for bridging across difference and making sure that those communities have what they need to thrive. And when we think about organizations that are led in those communities, we want to make sure that they're self-determined, right? And part of our trust-based philanthropy approach is to make sure that those communities have what they need to build the communities that they want. Justice. What do we mean by justice? Dismantling historic systems that have marginalized our neighbors and creating new liberating systems to take their place. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are essential building blocks to justice and equity, but they're not a final destination. And so we recognize that equity is both a process and an outcome. And so as a board, as a philanthropic foundation, we recognize that difference doesn't have to be the elephant in the room, but instead what we lean into so we can bridge true understandings and foster communities that thrive and learn and grow together. So we champion just and equitable systems and policies. So what does that mean? We recognize and know that when it comes to diversity and inclusion and just communities, it starts with policies that we have in our organizations, that we have in our systems. And so we really want to support organizations that have a shared value and live that out through their work. We engage our work with humility and curiosity, knowing that even as a board that we've done all of this work around building an equity imperative, there's still more for us to know. And we engage this work with humility and curiosity, knowing that we're not experts, but it's just something that we want to have lived out. And when we think about equity, justice, inclusion, sometimes those can be somewhat buzzwords. This is not a one and done. It's something that we as a board have chosen to use this as a guide to continually reflect, to make sure that we get back to that, always return to trust-based philanthropy. And it means we have to do our work as well. As a part of our equity imperative, Maddox is rooted in changing our culture. Historically, when we think about philanthropy, we think about a charity model. Charity has an assumption that people can't do things for themselves. So it's rooted in what we do for people. Instead, we're moving and transitioning towards a justice and equity approach to grant making. That type of grant making is rooted in trust and relationships. And with that, we're centering racial equity as our guide as we go through this process.
Hey everyone, Joseph Gutierrez at the Maddox Fund. We'll be making significant changes to the grant-making process over the course of the next 2 years. In 2021, we made most of our grants into 2-year grants, and we won't be having an open grant cycle in 2022. This will give us the time to reimagine and change the grant-making process, which will reopen in 2023. We'll have more details about that when we get closer to that date. So over the course of the next 2 years, we'll be doing some internal work. Our equity leadership team will be reevaluating our grant-making processes and aligning them with equity, diversity, and inclusion. We've also brought in an equity consultant to sort of guide us through that process. We'll continue doing more research on best practices from the field and continuing to listen to our partners. Another thing that we'll be doing over the course of this next year is we'll be having a Youth Philanthropic Advisory Board. This is an attempt at participatory grant making and sharing our power with young people and putting money in their hands to allocate to the communities that they serve. Finally, over the course of this period, we'll have our opportunity grants still open. These opportunity grants can go to COVID relief, including addressing learning losses over the course of the pandemic, capacity building, which includes equity and justice initiatives. We'll be focusing on BIPOC-led organizations and initiatives in our 3 program areas, and we'll be continuing to support funder collaboratives and nonprofit collaboration.
I want to say thank you to Anna and Melissa for being excellent board members and for your leadership through these changing times, and of course to Joseph for being a great partner at Maddox. I'm reminded of a quote by James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So at the Maddox Fund, what we're doing is really trying to face our internal policies and practices that perpetuate white supremacy. Things like paternalism, things like holding on to power, and the love of the written word that advantages some organizations and disadvantages others. So that's why we're starting internally and taking these 2 years to really look at what we have done and what we're doing. And in those 2 years, I'll say don't anticipate incremental change, but really transformational change within our areas of improving the lives of young people and furthering conservation. Now, I've spent more of my life in the grant-seeking role than in the grant-making role, and I really know that these kinds of changes from funders create a lot of anxiety. Joseph and I will be online for Q&A sessions 3 times this year or in the next couple of months so that you can ask your questions. But anticipate that a lot of our answers are going to be, we don't know yet. That's why we're taking these 2 years to really think about how we can change and what we can do. We'll also have listening meetings again. If you remember, prior to COVID, we had listening meetings every summer. And so this summer, they will be mostly by Zoom, but we're going to be listening again to our partners, what's on your mind, what your challenges are, and we look forward to integrating your thoughts into our redesign process. And of course, Joseph and I are always available for one-on-one conversations, and we'll send you a link to a calendar system so you can easily schedule a meeting with us. We remain thankful for the nonprofit community. We can't fulfill our mission without you as partners, and thank you for walking with us through this change.